Rick Lawrence.
Oh, I guess mine actually ties
Mr.
into
Lawrence,
what
you have 3 minutes beginning now.
you're saying tonight. No, John, here you throw around the word fascism a lot and unwarranted arrests and everything. That's why I find it so amusing that tonight you put on the agenda, not the police, not the city council, you and your office put on the agenda to buy cell phone surveillance equipment without a warrant. In the wrong hands, why could it not be used against the crowds that are out protesting? It's very East German type stuff. You can surveil an area and say whose cell phones are in the area. I get it. That's what you wanted to do. You put it on the agenda. You've known about it for months. We've talked about it. But let's just say we're going to go total East German type Stasi stuff. You're buying it from a guy in Arizona who's become to be known as Killer Mike. Mike was a police officer, killed 5 people, including a teenage girl. In the court documents, it was revealed that one of his favorite sayings that he posts online is, you should be professional and polite, but be prepared to kill everyone you meet. That's who you're doing business with. You've known it. You've seen the documents. We've sent you the documents. Mike is not even a distributor for this equipment. The company doesn't know Mike. I called him. It's German equipment. Mike works out of a UPS store. But you're going to do a 3-year contract with a guy that boastfully puts on his site, be prepared to kill everyone you meet. That's who you do. And you are buying equipment to surveil cell phones without a warrant, I might say. So when you throw around the fascism and everything else, be careful. What's the difference? If you knew ICE was doing that, collecting cell phone things, we'd all be screaming that ICE is collecting our cell phone data. But you want to do it. You're buying the equipment to do it. Why? Don't blame Rich Irvin. Don't blame the police. You put it on the agenda. You've known all about Killer Mike. You've known all about this. You know about his UPS store. This is on you, John. And if it's in the wrong hands of the wrong person, why could it not be used against the general public? Think about that.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Agenda item 250378 that was removed from the consent agenda onto unfinished business.
250378, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to enter into a purchase agreement with 58 Group for the procurement of a drive test scanner for the Aurora Police Department in an amount not to exceed $170,000.
Thank you. Before entertaining a motion, I'll ask if APD can give a short presentation on this agenda item, and then we will move to questions and or a motion.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Lieutenant Tom McNamara. I'm the current Administrative Services Lieutenant with the Aurora Police Department. I apologize I wasn't prepared for a full-on presentation, but I am.
Just give us maybe just give us a little bit of an overview of what this equipment does with respect to calibrating existing equipment that we have to make it so the information can be used in a court of law.
Sure, that's actually a very good way to put that. So I'm going to answer these questions the best I can, explain this the best that I can. First and foremost, the drive test scanner and its software does not surveil, it does not track, it does not gain any user data, phone numbers, location, text messages. It can't listen to your phone calls. It does not do any of that. It is a tool or device that uses cell tower data as it relates to the realm around the tower as far as the reception. So what it does is it helps place cell phone data that we receive via court order, or via a warrant or other means, legal means, that would use the drive test scanner as a tool coupled with it. So it's two separate silos, if you will. Cell phone data, as it relates to investigations, we've been getting that via court orders for 30 plus years. It's a routine law enforcement activity and as it pertains to investigations. The drive test scanner is a tool that would allow us to take the cell data that we've received, put that into current software that we have that maps that in relationship to cell towers. The drive test scanner would be used to go out in the field in the area of a crime scene or a missing person and map the area or the cell tower, for lack of better terms, bubbles or the service area around that. I don't know, it's very hard to explain. As far as cell towers, when you're speaking on your cell phone, you're not hooked to one tower for that entire phone call. As you move around, they do what is called a handoff, where one tower will pick up where you were or where you're going because that reception is better. Every cell provider does this, whether it's AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, any of the ones that we're accustomed to. In fact, you can go on their websites, and if you're looking to look at their phone coverage, they're going to show you a national map of what this drive test scanner does. Now, granted, it's going to be in a different scale, but it's going to say, hey, in Chicago, you get much better service than you would get in rural Montana. And they're going to show you the little heat map bubbles, the different colors, whether it's, green, purple, whatever. So that's in a larger scale what this drive test scanner does, and that allows us to use the mapping software and better triangulate or better locate where somebody was once we've mapped from the data that we've received from the cell phone company where they were at. Is it logical that they were hooked to this tower, but they were closer to a tower a half a mile away? That information becomes critical in prosecutions of crimes when we have the ability or the technology is out there and available to us. Defense attorneys, state's attorneys are looking for that type of information now and asking, did you use this technology, if you will, to map my client? Well, no. Well, why didn't you? It wasn't available. We didn't have the funds for it. We didn't have the means for it. So in speaking with our in-house expert on this, we believe that this drive test scanner could be utilized between 2 and 3 times a week for current cases that we have. And you're looking at anything from your major type crimes, your homicides, your attempt homicide, your aggravated batteries, robberies, any major crimes like that where we don't have a suspect in custody. We're going to try to take this technology out, get a snapshot of the area as it was then versus months down the road if we had to borrow this technology from somebody. I don't even know if it's possible to rent it, but that it changes. The map can change. Let's take right now, for instance, if something were to happen, we would want to go out immediately or as quickly as possible to map that area and have that snapshot so that further down the road, when we receive the cell data information via the court order, we have this historical snapshot to compare it to versus waiting a couple months. Right now is a perfect example. The leaves are all going to fall off the trees. Once the foliage is gone, cell reception is much better. So it's a different picture, if you will, to try to get an accurate, more efficient way of comparing the data. And that's hopefully, I know it's confusing. It's confusing for me as well. I spent a lot of time today trying to get this information. So I'm hoping I can clarify any questions anybody has. I understand it is a very touchy subject and well placed. So I'm willing to answer any questions.
So let's just say somebody commits a crime in an area and we have a piece of evidence that ties them to that crime. How does this help build the case? Is it used at all? Can the cell phone data then also be used should the person have carried their cell phone into the crime scene? Would it help place them at the scene of the crime?
It itself won't place them in the crime scene. That would be the cell phone data received later after there's been probable cause to seek a search warrant. Once granted by the court order and we get that data, that would be analyzed via methods that we already currently have. They would take that information, place it into, for lack of better terms, the map that the drive test scanner created, and then that information says, okay, well, it's likely that this person we already know that they were in the area from that cell phone data that we received. It's more likely that this person was over here than over here, or they were attached to this tower, but that tower covered an area or had a coverage area much larger or in a weird shape. So we can kind of pinpoint where they were. Likewise, you can also develop exculpatory evidence, which we're required to do if we have it, so that we can rule somebody out. It kind of goes both ways. It is definitely going to be what is looked for moving forward as these major cases and the technology becomes more, I guess, not available, but more common. This is commercially available technology. Anybody can go out and buy it. We're looking at the package that we have presented here as kind of the Rolls Royce, if you will, of the current technology, instead of going out and buying a Temu drive test scanner.
And then, I don't know how familiar you are with the procurement process, but it's my understanding this is asset forfeiture funds, not the general fund. And go ahead.
Correct. This we're seeking to buy this or purchase this out of the asset forfeiture funds, Department of Justice asset forfeiture. This does fall under an acceptable use of those funds via the equitable sharing program through the Department of Justice. Specifically, it's equipment used by police department to further investigations.
And then also with the procurement process, the vendor is one of quite a bit of controversy, as you've probably heard. I don't know how familiar you are with the procurement process, but it's are you familiar with it? 'Cause I know
I've had recent discussions. I don't know I'm going to kind of maybe toss this over to staff if I can, but I've recently been made aware of the potential controversy with the vendor, but I have no knowledge of that.
Jolene?
Jolene Coulter, Director of Purchasing. When we did this, we went out as a request for proposals. We have evaluation criteria, experience, references, capabilities, the ability for that vendor to do the work. Those reference checks were made. I believe they're working out of Joliet. They did some work out in Joliet. But that's as far as we go when we talk about exploring the company and their capabilities. What they provided to us, we don't go researching anybody's histories, backgrounds, or anything like that. It's their capabilities. But it is responsible bidder. So lowest responsible bidder, or in this case would mean the highest ranked firm that meets best responds in quality, fitness, and capacity for the requirements of the proposed work. So that's what we would call.
And how much different was it from the next highest?
It was actually $25,000.
So if the council wanted to reject it because of the vendor, would we then legally move to the next vendor?
We would have that discussion with law and what our next
And it
steps
would cost
are.
$25,000 more?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
I have a question.
Alderman Franco?
Well, I don't ask you a question, I have a comment. I think this is a good tool. I would like to see that tool. But if the allegations made tonight are true, we probably want to send it back to committee to verify, look at this a little bit closer. If it's not true, we're fine. If it is true, then we might have to go a different direction. So I think we're going to need I would think we would want more time to investigate that to see if that's really what's happening there. Because if it is, that's very concerning. If it's not, then we can move on. But I just think that we need more time to take a look at that.
Alderman Nunez?
So this isn't a sole source? There is no sole source for this product, right?
At the time when this was originally brought forth, the second respondent was not responding back to our officers as they were reaching out to try to get better information, and they weren't getting anywhere. So, and it was a struggle even to get them to respond in this case.
And Jolene, I don't know if you were involved in it, but I did ask the chief to talk to LexisNexis, the actual manufacturer of the equipment. Did
No,
we
I
ever
was
do
not-
that? You're not involved in that
I was not
at all?
involved in that conversation. I'm not sure if Lieutenant knows or not.
I'm unaware of that conversation. Now, I do believe LexisNexis does not manufacture the equipment. It's manufactured.
Maybe I have the wrong brand then.
Well, it's manufactured by Roden Schwartz, the actual scanner itself. Maybe there's a connection there between LexisNexis. I don't know. I believe part of the difference in the package was also the training and the way that was put forth. So it was not just the equipment, but also the capabilities of the vendor to train our officers, offer court consultations, things of that nature.
Have we talked to Joliet about any of?
So the individual in our department that would be using this mainly, the way that he actually became aware of this was he attended some training classes with other cell phone type investigative techniques, and there was a Joliet officer there that was using this product. Joliet, as far as I understand it, they have this exact product from this vendor, and they're happy with it. That's the local connection that we have. There are other federal agencies, I believe, that use it, as well as district attorneys' offices throughout the country.
Mayor?
Thank you. There's a question down here from Alderwoman Smith. No?
No, I didn't really have a question. I'm more on board with the follow-up of Alderman Franco, sending this back to committee, getting this looked at again, closer set of eyes on it, given the allegations, before we move forward. I'm not prepared to make a decision on this tonight, so I don't know about my colleagues.
Alderman Barrero?
I second that motion.
Well, was that a formal motion? I want to let's get through discussion if it's okay, and then we'll entertain motions.
Well, I'll make the motion. I make the suggestion. I make a motion that we send this back to committee to do some further review on the topic.
I'll second.
So motion was made to move this agenda item back to the Finance Committee for further discussion.
Mayor, I have a question.
One second, and a second by Alderman Nunez. So there's a motion, second on the table. Discussion.
Yeah, so One question, I'm looking in the legislation text that we currently use a system called TRAX, which is provided by LexisNexis. So when we add this other component, well, do we have anything like this component now? What are we using at the moment? I'm trying to understand, is there a need for a $170,000 addition to what we already have?
Currently, we do not use it. We do not have the capabilities. We do have the ability to reach out to the FBI and ask to borrow theirs. In a case, if we really needed to, there's a wait list for that. That could be several months long. That kind of went to my example of the waiting to get out there to take the snapshot as close to the time of the crime as possible. LexisNexis does have or does make the TRAX software. TRAX is the software we've had for several years now that does the mapping. Once we receive that data from the cell phone carriers via the court order, that is a program that is used by our trained detectives to map the area, and then they're going to take that information and use it within the drive test scanner results to try to pretty much more efficiently narrow in on, is it more probable than not that this person was close to the crime scene or somewhere in the crime scene or leaving the crime scene type of information.
Okay, so without the drive test scanner, we aren't able to pinpoint where somebody is. With the drive test scanner, it's easier to.
Correct.
Say,
The Aurora Police Department currently does not have the technology that the drive test scanner provides.
Okay.
It would make our investigations more efficient, more accurate, and that is what the court systems are starting to go towards. It's that evolving technology and always trying to keep up with that.
Okay, and one other comment, I do appreciate that staff mentioned that there was an RFP to go out. I was wondering about that because it is $170,000. I thought typically if there's an RFP, we had all the other ones so we could kind of compare and see what the other bidders were. That may be helpful, or no? It's not. Did I overlook it?
Yeah,
It's on there, but it's
table one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't see.
Jolene, do you have just a second? Come back up. I think she said that they were trying to get in touch with them again.
Okay, got
Let's
it.
hear it.
Understood.
25,000.
Yeah. I appreciate that information that it was 25,000 more.
table one.
No, LexisNexis did respond to this RFP. We don't generally give you all the proposals. We give you the one we would like to award it to. So, and then we give you the scoring, the evaluation tab that is behind it. So.
Are there any other questions while we've got this in front of everybody before it goes back to committee? Questions that the staff can answer on this agenda item?
Mayor Marsh.
Alderman Larson.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess first a point that I want to make, because I did do some research into this over surveillance concerns. Yeah, this is something that is used by cell carriers to map out network strength. So as far as I understand, it helps to more accurately triangulate a location from cell towers given the actual network map. And there are separate devices that other law enforcement, federal law enforcement, including ICE, does have called Stingrays. It's a completely different technology that acts as a fake cell tower, and your phone will ping that, and it can see everything that you're doing, and they are using that actively. So it's something for people to be aware of. But I do have some concerns over the vendor. I also read an article about this police officer associated with the 5/8 group, so I have a concern with that morally. Another concern that I have actually with both vendors, because I reached out to staff asking if we could get an itemized list. With the 5/8 group submission, they had a list of different items, including software. I understand it would be delivered, and there would be some training for our staff as well. So I'd want to know how much is the equipment, how much is software, how much is training, that sort of thing. And I believe both vendors did not provide that. And it's a bit of a concern to me because, as I understand, the drive test scanner only costs at the top end around $25,000. From what I could find, it might be more than that, but it's still significantly less than $170,000. So I think it makes sense to look at this a little bit more.
Any comments on that with respect to
No, I believe
the training component, I think.
So the training component is in-house training. So the member of 5/8 would come to us, train a number of our detectives on this so that we had the ready capability to send out somebody as soon as possible to map a scene when the situation called for. It also provided court consultation not courtroom testimony, but courtroom consultation. So that could be running a case by them for any hiccups that we have before testimony to try to see if there's something we're missing or for technical help. I don't know the extent of that as far as how many sessions that would be, how many travel. I mean, I think they're from Arizona, so there's travel involved there. So however they develop that amount, I don't know. And I believe Alderman Larson did bring that up before about the itemized list. I just wrote that down again. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it, but we can attempt for sure.
Okay. Alderman Barrero, next in line.
Thank you. My question is, have we used Marketplace, or can we use Marketplace to find this product?
I think this did go through Marketplace, is that correct? No, Jolene? Okay.
Is that something that can be done?
Go ahead.
We went through OpenGov. We used our OpenGov e-procurement system, so I went out nationally to vendors who provide similar services. But we can always see if there's a landscape out there. There's others that perform.
Marketplace will
provide
add a 7% charge, and they also use OpenGov.
Yeah, they use OpenGov, but I can see if they've got a landscape out there to see if there's other vendors out there that we just missed. So
The police are always going to conferences. I'm sure that there's some other vendor somewhere. Alderman Masiacos.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned that obviously you're using it in the courts. So am I to, or are we to think that the court system is also expecting this type of data when they come to their judgment on a specific case?
I don't know if I could speak to what they're expecting for a judgment, but it has been asked of our detectives in recent cases.
Okay, so it's being asked for?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens when it's asked for? Financially, what is it? We have to pay for it, correct?
Well, I mean, it's being asked during testimony whether or not we mapped a scene or whether or not we use this technology or this specific drive test scanner, and we just have to answer no, if that's what the case was.
Or we'd have to pay for it?
If it's something that a state's attorney was going to require from us ahead before the trial, yes, we would have to go out and look to either borrow or, like I said before, I'm not sure that they rent these yet. They don't seem to be extremely popular, not popular, but populous amongst, I think Joliet being the only other one in the state that we know of right now, minus the federal agencies.
Right. And so we're going to have an officer who's going to get trained on this drive test scanner?
We'll have several that are trained to use it, yes.
Okay, and these are officers that carry a gun and have a badge?
Yes, they would be assigned to our detective bureau.
Do we know if they have any concerns about being trained by this group in any which way?
The individual that is kind of our in-house expert on this does not have any reservations about this company. I don't know about the accusations personally. I know he spoke with Joliet, and Joliet is happy with this company.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Mayor.
Any further questions? There's been a motion and a second. I'm going to just move it to a vote, if that's okay.
Just a brief question.
Okay.
Brief question. When it goes back to finance, if we could find out how often Joliet's used it, and then historically how often we would have used it in our department, because I did see that 5.8 does offer a cell site survey for a fee. So I'd just be curious from a finance standpoint, to understand what that looks like from both departments, and then what that fee from this vendor and the other vendor would be. So appreciate the time, Mayor.
Okay. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll. The motion on the floor is to return this to the Finance Committee for further discussion by that committee.
And this will go to Finance on November 13th, I believe. Alderman Barrero.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Masiacos.
No.
Nunez.
Yes.
Franco.
Yes.
Seville.
Yes.
Benuelos.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Bug.
Yes.
Bade.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
11 yes, 1 no.
This item will be returned to the Finance Committee on November
I have some questions.
Yes.
So this doesn't provide any real-time tracking data. That's correct?
This provides a real-time snapshot of all the cell phone data for a geographic location, city block or a certain defined area.
Okay, and then that can be requested in the future in the case of a trial, you said.
Yes.
Where is this data being stored? Is APD storing this data, or is it the vendor that's managing that?
Yeah, so it comes to the police department. It's in a data set that is otherwise indiscernible by the police department. If you could imagine a 14-digit serial number, or not serial number, but some sort of an IMEI or something like that, that's associated with a cell phone service specific to a vehicle, or rather, I'm sorry, a cell phone. Think of it in terms of how corporations use it for marketing. If they know that 500 cell phones in the city of Aurora are Googling a certain brand of tennis shoe, that they know to maybe flood that area with marketing campaigns for that type of shoe. They know that based on anonymous data that's not tied to any individual person. In a similar fashion, we would have that data that data stays with us, but it means nothing to us until or unless we write a search warrant, obtain a search warrant through judicial process, and then send that secondary search warrant off to a cell phone carrier and ask for them to give us an interpretation of that data. We don't have the ability to do that.
Okay, so that's where I get the identifying information. And then we could issue a search warrant. Is it also possible for, say, a federal agency to issue a subpoena or a warrant of some case and get this data on our residents?
Based on the information that we obtain, they would have to go through the same judicial process that we would have to go through. It's not a free market. It's not a free market system. No one can obtain this information without judicial process.
And if say the federal government were trying to get this data, would they be able to do that without this equipment?
I don't know. I don't know how the federal government does their investigations, and I don't know how that differs from how we intend to use this equipment, but I suspect they have their own equipment, or perhaps they have something that's not dissimilar from this, but I couldn't speak to what a federal and law enforcement agency would do.
Okay, thank you.
This provides a real-time snapshot of all the cell phone data for a geographic location.
First item on the agenda.
Item 25-0378, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to enter into a purchase agreement with 5A Group for the procedure of a drive test scanner for the Aurora Police Department in a total amount not to exceed $170,000.
Commander, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Committee. Commander Bill Rowley, I'm the Commander in charge of Investigative Services Division. I'm bringing before you our request for authorization to purchase a drive test scanner. We brought this to the Finance Committee and Committee of the Whole in the spring, and under the direction of the Committee of the Whole, we returned this item so that we could do a formal bid process. Initially, this item and this vendor was chosen based on a sole source application, but for sake of further transparency, we returned that for a formal bid, which we did. This item, which I can describe briefly, through the formal bid process, 5A Group was selected as the most qualified, lowest bid for this process amongst the other vendor applicants, which included LexisNexis. And just if I can give you a brief summary of what a drive test scanner is for the purposes of a police department. As you see through your memo, with the modernization of a lot of policing investigative tactics and techniques, mobile cellular data as well as other digital data is long become the standard for a lot of our evidence collection and a lot of our real-time location of missing persons, wanted fugitives, and the like. One of the items that we can use to assist with this investigation is a drive test scanner, which in layman's terms is a piece of equipment that can map out the cellular network in our area. It can help us determine with greater clarity the location of a person or absence of a person at a crime scene. For example, I used this before. If the police show up to a scene where someone's been shot and it's your classic whodunit, we can analyze cellular data from that area, and through a strict legal process, we can take that data, write a search warrant for that data, and obtain real-time usable information from cellular phone companies, and use that to either develop further leads into the investigation of the crime, or if we have someone in mind that we are looking at as a possible suspect, we can use that information to refute their presence if we know that they were somewhere else or they were not in the area at the time of the committed crime. For instances involving things like missing endangered folks, if we have known cellular data, for instance, if a family member says, my grandfather with Alzheimer's disease is missing from an area, he might be out on foot walking around, here's his cell phone number. Under an emergency and exigent circumstance, we can obtain cell phone data from the cell phone company under that exigency, and we can use this drive test scanner to see if we can pinpoint where that person is based on their cell phone. Just to wrap this up, none of the stuff that we receive via a drive test scanner works on its own, so it's essentially ones and zeros that we receive back. We're not permitted to interpret that data until we receive through a legal process, and that would be a search warrant through a judge, to take that information and send it off to a cell phone company to get data that can be analyzed. We have another piece of software that we analyze that data from, but again, that data is useless to us until we receive other information from a cell phone carrier that lets us further process that data. Finally, it puts this data into easy to understand mapping formats for when we eventually go to court on a case, rather than try to spend hours explaining to a jury what all these numbers on a piece of paper mean. This data helps us put it in a mappable format so that a layperson can review the data and see it in an understandable and digestible way. It also creates duplicity in our court proceedings, so we'll collect data from one area, and this drive test scanner and the subsequent software that we already have can be used to validate as a two-pronged approach for evidence, which is sort of the industry standard. I'll give an example of when we seize what we believe to be drugs, we'll have a field test that will give us a determinate finding of whether or not that's a controlled substance, for example. Then we later send it to a lab for a secondary assessment. So we have two prongs in that case. For digital evidence, that same standard is required by the courts, and this would help us provide that second repeatable standard. Any questions?
Alderman Larson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious, out of, so it looks like this is a $170,000 contract. Do we know approximately how much of that is the cost for the drive test scanner? I was just doing a little bit of research, and it looks like the model that 5.8 Group offers, it's not easy to find prices for like a new model, but a used one, it looked like it was running around $25,000. So 170 seems a little high. So I don't know how much of that is added services or training on top of the equipment.
Sure. And forgive my lack of clarity up in front of you today, but when I refer to the drive test scanner I'm bringing before you, what I'm actually referring to is an entire scope of work, which includes the hardware, training, the associated software that goes along with it, ongoing software updates for the 3-year period of the purchase agreement, and also court testimony assistance if needed from the vendor. And so that's packaged into a total scope of work beyond just a piece of equipment.
I guess a follow-up to that, if we were to move forward with this and we wanted to continue using this equipment, if there's software that goes along with it, do we expect there to be a comparable renewal cost, or would it be lower if we were to continue using it? Because if we don't keep up with the software licensing, it might become a brick.
That's great, and we also discussed that, which is why we didn't seek anything beyond a 3-year contract. Given the state of technology, advancements in technologies, it's reasonable to think that in 3 years there may be a version of this or something even more effective that's going to be out there. So rather than lock ourselves into, say, a 5-year contract for something, now during the 3 years that we have this under our purchase agreement, that includes all software updates that would be a portion to this piece of equipment and its surrounding software. But at the end of 3 years, leading up to the end of 3 years, our plan is to make a reassessment. And if this is still the best technology that's out there, then we would reconsider another 3-year contract. But again, going back to how technology works, our suspicion is that in 3 years there could be something that's much more effective, and we'd rather have the option to look into that versus being stuck with something that's archaic.
Alderman Barrow.
Chairman Masiacos, I have a question. Did you guys work with IT on this while you were looking for this technology?
We did. We had a brief interactions with them on the onset about this, because this piece of equipment will not touch a city network, and the subsequent software is air-gapped as a standalone system outside the network. Their interaction with this will be limited. We have a person who's certified in this and has been trained and has been has graduated as a court expert on this piece of equipment, so that person would be sort of the be-all, end-all in terms of maintenance and care of the product, and then going back to the vendor for any maintenance issues or any breakage or anything like that. So while IT was involved on the onset, their ongoing support would probably be minimal at best. Also, we did talk to other partners, Joliet being one that comes to mind immediately. They have this up and running, and they've used it, so we spent a lot of time talking to them to see about how that end result would look before we made a decision. Thank you. Sure.
Alderman Franco.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Bug. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Committee.
Thank you, Commander. Clerk, please.